Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Laura Rogers, and this is Joelle Jobson, and this is
Hello.
Power Hour. And we have our pink theme going today. We're both pink, pink, pink. um, and this is a show we've been doing Wednesdays at 11 Central for about 7 years. And it's all about, it started off just all being SharePoint. And over the years, it's evolved. It's all SharePoint, Microsoft 365, Power Apps, Power Automate, Teams, all those different Microsoft 365, the whole everything in the platform, all those different apps that are involved. So it's mostly geared toward business users and people that like to are not necessarily programmers. We're doing things that are out of the box. I don't write code. I'm not a programmer. Neither is Joelle. So we can kind of figure stuff out here and there if we have to. But this is more geared toward business users. So today's demo, you all voted. I send out a newsletter before Power Hour, and you all vote on what you want the topic to be. And the topic is Dataverse for Teams, which is the concept of data. Well, Dataverse is one thing; it's actually a data source, but we're talking about the concept today of building Power Apps inside of Microsoft Teams, and all of that entails. So it is only an hour. It's a little longer than that 8-minute video that I did a few months ago about Dataverse, but it's we're going to cover as many concepts as we can and get not too super technical in depth, but hopefully you'll at least have an understanding of what it is and how to get to it and all the concepts in there. So let's go ahead and get started. And what we have here is we have this chat, and our chat is in Teams. So the cool thing about our chat for Power Hour being in Teams is that we can try this particular thing happens to be a Teams demo, so we can try it out. So if you've never joined before, there's going to be a link in the chat. There's going to be a link underneath wherever you're watching this video to request to join, because I add everybody as external users in this demo tenant. So when you request to join, next time you go into, you'll get the email inviting you, you go into Teams, and you'll be able to switch over to our tenant when you're in Teams. So you don't have to request to join multiple times. Once you've been added, you're in here as an external user. So then you go to Teams, you go to the Power Hour team, and then you, once you're in Power Hour, I have tabs up here at the top for each Power Hour that I just keep like the last 5 or 6 in here. And then once you go to Power Hour, then you can go to click the little chat. So that way you can watch me on YouTube and on chat. So we have interactive chat the whole time. So that's every Power Hour. But then we also have today, we have a team that I created called Dataverse Test. And this is the one that we're going to be using for all the demos. And Joelle is just tell her in the chat, just in the regular chat, that you want to be invited, because you were all external users. So we have to manually just invite you all to this other team. Even though it's a public team, it doesn't let you all just join it if you want to. You have to be invited. So just tell Joelle in the chat that you'd like to join, and then you'll be able to go over to this team, to be able to see all the stuff I've created. So let's go ahead and get started. So this is where, and feel free if you're already in there, if you want to just poke around. It's got a bunch of channels, and it's got a bunch of tabs in all the channels, and you can try out what's in there. But what I'm going to do is I'll show you, I'm going to start with an overview of how in the world I created these apps in Teams and how to get to it. I'm starting from the beginning. So when you are in Teams, you are going to go to this little ellipsis, and the first thing you have to do is find Power Apps. Now, I already added Power Apps to my little my menu over here, so it's not showing in my ellipsis, but you need to look for Power Apps here and then click on it. And once you've clicked on Power Apps, you'll see it over here in the left side in this left menu, and it's not going to stay there though. It's not going to stick. So if you go away from it, you'll have to go look for it again with the ellipsis. So what you can do though is you can pin it. So I right click on Power Apps and I choose pin, and that way I can just quickly always have Power Apps listed here with all the other apps. Okay, so that's how we get to Power Apps. And then once we're in here, if you're starting from scratch, you might not have anything listed. But what you're going to have is these three little tabs. You have Home, Build, and About. And Joelle's her head is not covering up anything. It's really just the Power Apps logo. So you're not missing anything up here, any extra tabs at the top in the screen share. So you have Home, Build, and About. So the home screen is just like a splash screen that's showing you any apps that you've created already, and it's got some templates, and then it's got some learning links to go learn how to do some things, create your first app, and it's got just like generic Microsoft training there. So what I did for this Power Hour is I created one of each of these different apps. And those are nice little templates. Now, just like I always say about the templates that exist just in Power Apps, just the main Power Apps, web.powerapps.com, all those templates, I would never usually take a template and try to make that into a production app. Because usually there's so many things that you want to change in it to tweak it, to make it your own for your company and your requirements. Usually it takes more time to go change the template than it does to just start from scratch and just learn from the template. But these templates have some really great, really interesting, cool ideas and interesting technical things as to how they did stuff that are going to be great to learn from if you'd like. So, we have the templates. Now, what a little bit more about how to get around in here. When I go to the recent apps, and maybe I've started creating some apps, and I click see more, you have another couple of tabs to understand here. So you have built by this team and installed apps. So built by this team means these are things that I am in this team in Microsoft Teams, and I clicked to create a brand new app from scratch, not using one of the templates, and I called it Test Travel, and that is what is listed here. And this trip thing, this is a table that I created in that app. So installed apps, these are the templates. So like I said, I created one of each, and so those are installed. So it's referring to those as installed apps. Now you might have for your organization, your IT department might have developed some Power Apps and implemented them, deployed them out to different teams. So those might show as installed apps also. But that's the difference between once you go to the Build tab and once you go to the list of all the apps. If you've installed a couple of the templates and you go here and you wondering where they are, well, they're just listed under installed apps. And another interesting thing about these installed apps when we use the templates is that some of these templates are actually several different apps. So we'll go through the templates and go look at the ones that I created, but several of these templates, when you create them, it actually pushes them out to tabs in a team, in a channel. So you're going to create an app, and when you publish it, it's basically going to ask you which tabs you want to create, to basically in which channel do you want to create the tabs. And it looks like sometimes, you kind of think that maybe those are multiple tabs that are just taking you to different parts of the same app, but no, those are actually multiple apps. So like the issue reporting gives you 2 apps, issue reporting and manage issues, employee ideas gives you ideas and manage ideas, and area inspection is inspection, manage inspections, review inspections. So that way, this idea is that you could have multiple roles, and maybe you want just a certain set of people to be able to say manage a list of things, and a certain set of people to just be the ones creating new items. So what Microsoft has done, they've just created completely separate apps for that. So that's what those are. Now let's go back to the home tab here. So the concept with Dataverse, so we're calling this Dataverse for Teams. It's building Power Apps inside of Teams. Now we can build Power Apps directly inside of Teams, and I'm going to go ahead and just click New App while I'm talking. And we can build Power Apps inside of Teams. And then Dataverse is actually the data source that we can use. I'm going to go ahead and pick, let's see, my Dataverse Test. This is a team that I created specifically for doing this. So as I'm talking, I'm creating just a brand new Power App from scratch and kind of explaining what all this is and what Dataverse is. So I'll call this Customers Test. And I created another one a little while ago called Travel Test. So the first thing it does is it has you give your app a name, and then the first thing you're prompted with is the ability to create a new table. So this is where Dataverse for Teams comes in. Now Microsoft used to have this thing called CDS, the Common Data Service, and that is a premium connector just like SQL is, and it's just it's a database. But they renamed it and they called it Dataverse. So CDS is now Dataverse, but Dataverse for Teams is like this little light sort of, you're not really supposed to use the word free with this stuff, but it's not premium. It's not going to cost you extra like Dataverse and SQL will if you use them as a backend data source for your Power App. So this prompts you immediately with this ability to create a new table. So if I create a new table here, I could just say this is customers. Then I've created a table in Dataverse. Now, and Joelle, just interrupt me if you see anybody asking anything interesting as I'm going. Because I'm not looking at the chat right now. I'm just kind of doing my thing. But so now I've created a table. Does this kind of remind you of Microsoft Access? It's very simple. Joelle, what do you think? Does this little very, very simple interface remind you of Access, like when you're creating a table back in the old days?
Yeah.
It's very, very simple. So this is good for especially maybe people who don't even know what a database is, who just, they know Excel, they know how to create a list of stuff. So a table is a list of stuff. So this is where I can create this table. And now I've created just a new table called Customers, and I see my little Dataverse icon. But I don't have to use Dataverse as my backend data. These are data sources. So you've all learned from me in all my Power Hours and all my Power Apps training about data sources. Well, Dataverse is just another data source. So you don't have to use Dataverse. You can just go find SharePoints just like you always do. Currently adding a connection. Yeah. And it's asking me to authenticate. Let's see. Oh, it was trying to open up Edge. All right, I don't want it to open up Edge. Oh, it's trying to open up Edge because I'm in Teams, like the actual Teams app, and Edge is the default browser. So I'm not going to do that right now because I don't feel like authenticating in Edge. But you can add, the idea I was just going to show you is that you can add SharePoint lists that you already have as your data source in this app in Teams. So SharePoint and Office 365 users and email and SQL and all those other hundreds of different connectors can also be added as data sources in here. So you're not stuck with having to use that little data table that they provide you just because you're building it inside of Teams. So it's a little confusing with the name. The naming is Dataverse for Teams, and you're building a Power App in Teams, but you don't even have to use Dataverse if you're building a Power App in Teams. Does that make sense? So hopefully I'm explaining that okay. Now, the thing about Dataverse
Do you have time for some questions?
Yeah.
Questions?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Does anyone know the max number of records that can be stored in the DBT table? I thought I had heard 5,000, but that seems low. It's from Beth Beck. Any ideas on that?
No, I don't know.
Okay. And then can you import Excel spreadsheet into the Dataverse table? It looks like somebody else said that you probably can. There was
Okay, so kind of what they're saying that you can do is you can go, what I read about this, if you want to get your data into Dataverse, is that you'd be creating a flow. Let me know if anybody has heard anything different. You'd be creating a flow and connecting to Dataverse in the flow and having it go into your data source and get the records and then creating them in Dataverse. But the problem with that is, so that's kind of what I was getting to, is the concept of flow with Dataverse, is that when I go to Dataverse, Dataverse is a premium connector in Flow. So, yeah. So you can, for free, you can create these easy little tables in your new app that you just created inside of Teams. But if you want to do any automation, have anything triggered, anything happen when somebody's creating a record, like we do all the time in SharePoint, that we talk about all the time with flows that we create, then that's a premium connector, and that is going to cost something per user per month. I'm not sure. I don't know anything about licensing, but I know that these cost extra. So to answer the question about importing it, that is the method that I've seen listed. I researched it this morning, and I didn't see that anything about that had changed. Because I know Dataverse, everything's changing really quickly. But what you would do is you'd have to say, you know, whatever your data source is, wherever your data is, you would be connecting to that in the flow. And then you would say, basically, you would be, these are just triggers, but you would be adding, see, I can't even do it because I don't have premium. Then you'd be using a Dataverse action. Let me just put a manual trigger in here. See, I like the way Dataverse is right here as like the default connectors you want to use, and SharePoint's not. So there are the add a new row is a Dataverse action. So that's a way to get data into Dataverse by creating a flow that goes and gets the data, get items, or wherever your data is currently, and adds a new row over in Dataverse. And when you click to add a new row, it's going to probably have a prompt just like you're used to in SharePoint saying, what table, what database, what table, and stuff like that. Was there any other, were there any other questions or anything else related to what I said about importing?
No, just people kind of mentioning about the premium piece of that, the sneakiness.
Yeah. So if you are building your Power Apps in Teams and you're prompted with that pretty little easy table to create, just keep in mind that if you want to do any automation on that table or any kind of business process, when you start getting to here, then that's when you might be surprised that it's a premium. So what I wanted to convey is that you can add all those data sources that you've learned about from me and all my training and everything. You can add all those in here. You don't have to use Dataverse. So let's talk a little bit more about the templates. And well, before I get to the templates, I want to show you one more thing that's kind of related to like some of this back-end data and these concepts that we're talking about right now, since we're kind of on this topic, is basically when you start building your Power Apps inside of Teams, it's automatically creating a new environment. So when I go to the Power Apps Admin Center, this is the, it's called admin.powerplatform.microsoft.com. This is my list of environments. You'll notice that these 3 environments are from apps that I created inside of Teams. So all the apps that I created today in this Dataverse Test team are all in this Dataverse Test environment, their own environment. So in case you're wondering, admin-wise, where they all are, that's where you'll see all of them stored. All right, so that's where they are. So let's go back to, so I'm back in Teams now. So when I'm building a team, it does prompt me. It has this nice little easy interface. Now, since we're in here and we're looking at tables and talking about data, I'm going to go ahead and show you I kind of was thinking I was going to show you the templates first, but I'll just go ahead and keep on this track about the data and what these little easy little tables look like, because they're really nice. I mean, think about business users who don't necessarily have an advanced knowledge of databases. This is a nice simple way, like people who maybe previously used to use Microsoft Access. These are kind of nice. So I'll call this one projects. And it's just got like basically like a plural that it gives it a plural name. And then, so now as soon as you create a new table, it's prompting you to create columns. So I'll go ahead and close this one. I'm going to go to the other one that I created. So once I've created one of these tables, how do I get back into it? I go to edit data, and that's where I get that prompt with my columns. So this one I called customers. So I can rename this. This is kind of like the title column that we get in SharePoint for every new list that we create. It always has that one default column. I'll call this customer name. And then from there, you'll always have the default one, and you can always just create new ones. So I'll just call it customer status. And then it's got this nice little list of all these column types that we can create. And most of these are similar to what you'll see in SharePoint when you're creating new columns. But a couple of them are a little different. So you've got text, email, URL, phone. You've got auto number, which is kind of like the ID column in SharePoint that just auto increments. And you've got a number, a date, a decimal, a lookup, choice, and yes, no. So I'll just say active is one status, is green. So it's got the color codes just like SharePoint has. Inactive. Keeping it pretty simple here. So that's my next column that I just created. And then let's see, I'll say liaison. My customer liaison is going to be email. And then customer phone. And I'm going to use one of these little phone columns and website. I'm not going to spend too much time creating columns. Okay, so that's going to be my customer. Now the thing about this is I can enter data just directly in here. So I'll go ahead and just type one customer name. And then this drop-down box is a little buggy. This is supposed to be a drop-down box right here. So because I made it a choice, but I've seen it act a little odd. Oh, there we go. I just typed a letter in it and then this appeared. I just typed Joelle. I think I was probably supposed to type an email address. Okay, so now I've got one record. And then I'll go ahead and close that and go over to my projects. How's it going in the chat? I'm not even looking. Project name. What do y'all think? What are the opinions on this so far? Can you tell, Joelle? Date. Let's see, I'll do a project end. And I'm going to do a lookup for this one. I'll just say customer. And this will be a lookup over to, look at this, look at all my tables. Apparently I've got a lot of tables in here because remember I created all those template apps and all those templates all created multiple tables in this same environment. So this is the environment for that specific team, But since that environment has a lot of apps in it, look at all these different lists that I have to pick from to do my lookup. So I have the one that I created called customers, and that's the one that I want. And there we go. Okay, so I'll go ahead and do a project. Are you still, can you hear me? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Has anybody said whether they're able to get into those apps?
Yeah, I think they are. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
I think most people are talking kind of still about like the gateway premium situation. I think that's the main topic
The
of conversation that I'm
licensing
seeing.
trickiness.
Yeah. Yeah.
I noticed that in SharePoint, when I just type, like if I just typed 7/1 as a date in SharePoint, I just do that all the time in SharePoint, it automatically knows this year. But when I type a 7/1 in here, it just, it puts 2001. So I had to go put the full dates in here. Okay, and then customer, there's my little drop down. So I'm picking Contoso. Now, when I did the lookup, it didn't prompt me to say which column would you like to show in the lookup like it does in SharePoint. It's just automatically giving me like that default, that name column to pick from. I wonder if I edit it, if it would make a difference. Probably not. No. All right, so some extra things that you have with columns. You can edit them further. You can hide a column, sort and filter. You can move them left and right, and you can pin left and right. So that would be nice to be able to take the project name and pin it maybe, and then unpin it. Just if you have a whole bunch of columns and you're trying to get, back and forth and sifting through a bunch of data, that would help. You also have views in here, compact, default, and comfortable. Comfortable. That's my comfortable view. All right, and then another nice thing that we have when we create an app from scratch is it gives us this little table from scratch. So remember when I first built this and I clicked create table and I called it customers? Well, it automatically took my customers and put it in this little default screen. It gives me this screen called screen 1. And so this is kind of nice because this isn't something that's usually built in like that with just a standalone app. So it's got built-in stuff. It's got a built-in right container that's got a form in it. It's got a built-in left container that's got a gallery of all of whatever that first table is that I created. And then it's this form, and now I added more columns later, so it didn't automatically refresh itself, but the form is going to be for whatever record I click on. So I'll go click edit fields and I'll go add those other fields that I created. And some of these are system fields, as you can tell. All right, and that doesn't look any different than what we're used to with regular Power Apps. Most of the stuff that we're dealing with in these Teams apps are what we're used to with all the other Power Apps that we've been building, all, mostly the same interface, all the same concepts, same formulas and stuff. But it's just kind of little things here and there that I'm pointing out. So I'll go preview this, and so now I can fill out a new record, and it automatically brings me to a new form, and I'll call this one customer 2 because I'm not very creative. Liaison is going to be and it didn't, let's see. There we go. It's automatically got the little button built in to check to submit the item you just created. And it's automatically, whatever record I click on, it's switching between those in this form, and I can go edit an existing form, so it puts me in edit mode. And then a little checkbox to save what I just did. So all these nice little buttons are just going to be built in to give you just that first interface for filling out whatever that first table is. Now, of course, I create a second table, and it's called projects, and it's and that one's not in here, obviously. But I can create a new screen, and on my new screen drop down in here, I have blank. I have these different ones with different container arrangements, and we talked about containers in Power Hour. But then I have scenarios, which is where that'll take you to kind of what you're familiar with all the little screen templates. But it looks like this one uses that sidebar template because it's got, you know, the left, top, and that form. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at, there's also something that I'm going to show you with parameters, because in Teams, we can actually pass parameters from Teams into the Power App if we want to know something about the team, like what the team is, the team's ID, the channel that you're showing that Power App in, and the color scheme and themes. So we can take the whole team themes color scheme, like light or dark, and have that reflected in our Power App. So that's I think that recently rolled out, more recently than kind of all this other stuff. So that's a fairly new concept. All right, let's go into our templates. So I'm going to save what I've done. And again, all these Power Apps, you're publishing them to Teams. Now, we actually did a whole other Power Hour about publishing Power Apps to Teams, I believe. And those were just standalone Power Apps, but you can do the exact same thing. You can do the exact same thing with standalone Power Apps. You can publish them to Teams and put them in a tab in Teams. Just FYI. Okay, so now I've already, let's see. Which channel do I want this app to be in? I could have sworn I already added this. Oh no, this is the brand new one that I just created. So I'm going to add this to the test channel, and it's going to be called Customers Test, and I'll save and close that. But whenever you are making more changes to the app later, and you, I'll just go like change this to red or something. Let me see. No, I didn't mean to go to my home tab. That's annoying. That's not the home tab in Power Apps. Now that we've got like two different layers of tabs, you have the tab that the tabs at the very top, and then the tabs inside of Power Apps. And so I clicked on the home tab that was all the way at the top of Power Apps. Okay, what I was going to say was, when you go back in and you want to edit something else, you click publish again, but you don't have to click to create another tab, because it'll show in that little list of tabs that I just saw, it'll show that you've already published that to a tab. So you don't have to go publish it again to some other tab. All you have to do is click save, and your updates will just be reflected in the tab that's already published. Okay, Dataverse Test. So I'm in my Dataverse Test. I'll go to Teams. Now here's what I did. So the first app that I created was the template called Ideas. Get rid of this thing. So I've got this Ideas template. And then when I created I used this Ideas template, and it spun up two apps. What it did was it created two tabs. So I was just going to create all these apps in the general channel in here in this team. But as I started creating more and more apps, and it started adding all these multiple tabs for each app, and then I thought, well, that's just going to be really, really cluttered. So you don't have to create different channels for the different apps. You can just keep adding tabs, but to make it a little more organized and for you all to see what's going on in here, and to be able to, have all those tabs not be all crowded up here, I went ahead and started creating channels for different apps. So when I created Ideas, and I created Inspections just in this general channel, and then the next time I started creating all the other apps, I created them in separate channels. Okay, so that's why these two These two apps are just crammed into this one, and then all the other ones have their own channels. So let me take a look at the chat real quick and see how we're doing. Oh, this person, Joelle, wants to TEH wants to be added to the ideas, or to the Dataverse thing. Okay, let's see. Am I missing anything exciting?
I think there's just conversation about like kind of understanding when to use this and what, why it might be worth it, kind of thing. I think there's just some conversation around that, comparing to regular Power or Canvas apps and SharePoint lists and things like that.
Yeah, great. Okay. Okay, so let's go over to this. So the first app that is in here is Ideas. So like I said, some of these it actually creates entirely multiple apps, entirely separate apps. So Ideas is an app and Manage Ideas is an app. So probably what you do in the real world is you'd present the Ideas app in a tab to like the end users, and then you'd have Manage Ideas and have that be maybe in a place, in a team, in a channel that is only for people who need to be managing them, like the people who are receiving those, like the HR department or something, who's receiving the ideas. So I've got Larry create an idea. Good job, Larry.
Yeah, Larry also had a question. How do you control visibility of apps based on user permissions and teams?
Visibility of apps? Well, you could create, if you wanted to have people in a team. In general, the people in the team have visibility into the apps in that team. But you could create private channels if you say you wanted to have like HR only. You could give the HR only their own channel and then put Manage Ideas as a tab in the HR only. So let me just do that real quick. I'll just say add channel. I'll add Joelle to that one. Okay, and then Joelle's a member. And then let me go to, so I could take Manage Ideas. And so this is what the HR people are going to need. And I don't want maybe everybody to be able to use that. So I can actually remove it from this general channel. And then I'll go to HR only and go to Ideas. Employee Ideas. And it's probably going to put both of them. Oh, yeah. No. Oh, it can't be added to private channels. Well, that's stupid. Okay. Well, that would be the idea, is that you could just have... The problem with this concept that I was kind of thinking through of adding it to a private channel is that everybody in the team can still go to Power Apps here. And if you're in the team, you're going to see the apps for that team. So there isn't really... Well, okay, so some of Microsoft's template apps, as they're spinning themselves up, will actually prompt you to say, what team and channel do you want this to be displayed on? Because it's prompting you to allow it to be displayed, like have them entering ideas from a completely different team, and then have them going into like your team. Does that make sense? So, but only a couple of the templates do that, to where you're having like someone entering data and someone managing data that are two different teams of people. Let me show you what that looks like. I'm going to just do another one of ideas, and I'll just call it something else so you can understand what I'm referring to. So I'll say, actually, I'm going to give this one a new channel so we don't get it all mixed up with the other one. Go to Teams, and I'll create an Ideas channel, and I'll call it Ideas 2. So we'll know this is the second time I'm creating this one. So you can kind of see that whole process of what it looks like to pick one of the templates, and then what it looks like, the way that template has some special prompts in it that are very custom. Okay, go back to Power Apps, and I'm going to create employee ideas, add to a team, and then I'm going to say ideas to channel, set up a tab. And that's really surprising that I can't take a Power App and put it as a tab in a private channel. Probably because a private channel is a completely separate set of data, I guess. That is very awkward. Now this takes a while for each app that it spins up, so this is why I went ahead and did them all ahead of time, because it took a few minutes for each one of these to spin up. See, it says installing at the bottom. So there's a lot of custom, there's a lot custom to these that it's building. It's building multiple tables, and it's building all these different tabs, and it's building all these different interfaces. So that's what it's kind of spinning up. Now it says that it's basically spinning it up, but it says that I can go do something else while it's installed. So let me go ahead and just keep flipping through these apps so I can show you what they're doing. So this is kind of weird that it put manage inspections before inspection. You would think inspection would want to come before managing inspections, but the idea with the inspection is that I have a store, and I'm going to perform an inspection. Now this is really neat looking. I'm going to go to the store and perform an inspection on something. So I already did an inspection on front desk, and so I'll go ahead and do a food inspection. Now I'm really hungry because it's lunchtime. So which checklist do I want? And these are all going to be screens in an app. So these are great to get ideas from. I'll go ahead and just do a morning store walk. That's probably going to be a little shorter. And this app is actually going to be tied to tasks in Planner. So this is really neat. So this is one of the things that it prompts you for, and that you're about to see with that other app that it's creating. It actually prompts you to say, where do you want the task created? And it tells you to go ahead and add a tasks tab. And when you add the tasks tab, that is the tasks for Planner. And I think we had a whole other power hour about tasks for Planner, but or at least we had one about Planner, but it's actually going to be assigning task in Planner. So Joelle, you probably see, I did an inspection earlier before I started Power Hour of a clothing store, and I actually assigned a task to you for something that I found in my inspection. So this is what the inspection overview is. So I say, is it clean and hygienic? And so for clean and hygienic, it takes me a whole other screen that's got all these things that I need to check to do. So I can make a note. Great. Save my note. And for each of these, it's letting me add a photo, a note, and a task. And I'll say this one's got an issue, and I'll add a task. Ooh. And for the previous inspection that I did a little while ago, it actually did create Joelle a task. So this is probably just a bug. I'm not sure why it's giving me an error now, but it actually did create one for her. Let's go see. I'm just going to try clicking it again. No, yeah, I'm not sure why it's doing that. I'll just say it's okay. Yeah. Third time's a charm? No. Okay. I'll just say that's an issue, and then I'll review my inspection, and then 2 out of 2 completed. So all looks good and issue noted. It's pretty. It's a pretty little app, isn't it? So then it's got other inspections that I can do, and I can return to home, and then it's showing me open tasks. So again, it's telling me it needs to be configured, but I actually already did configure it. So I can go to tasks here. And I can see, I saw it earlier. I'm going to list. Here we go. Look, here's the one that it assigned Joelle earlier. So it was working before I started Power Hour. I'm not sure what broke, but Joelle, you're going to need to take care of the front desk. And some of the clothing in our clothing store needs to be folded. So
I'll definitely fold those t-shirts.
in the Gap or whatever. So I wasn't sure if it was going to let me assign tasks to external users. So Joelle was pretty much my only option for that one. And then, so it did have the integration between this app and the tasks in Planner, and it created the task. So then when I go, so that's the inspection app. All right, let's see, open. So I don't have any open tasks, or at least the task thing is broken. I don't think anyone's assigned me any tasks anyway, but it shows me my inspections. And then the review inspection app is, let's see, these are the inspections that people have submitted. And like I can see that 2 people have submitted food inspections. I guess those are both mine. And we have a frozen food inspection. And that was part of my morning store walk. And it's got this cool little dashboard. That is neat. So Joelle, if I ever have a Power App that I'm building that needs to have a cute little dashboard, I'm just going to go crack this thing open and just like copy and paste this out of there into my own app. So that is really neat. So what we can do, if I see this and I'm trying this out and I think this looks cool, I can go open that app and see how exactly this is done. So this is the Review Inspections app. And probably that other one is spinning up. It might be ready soon. Review Inspections. I go to Build. I go to Installed Apps. And I go to Area Inspection. I click Review Inspections. And this is how I can crack it open and actually design that app. Now, it's got little warnings. Like if you start going into the code, like if you go into the OnStart, it's like, hey, if you change anything in here, you might break it. And then it's not going to work correctly anymore if you break it. So it's kind of what it's warning you about. But these are good learning tools. Anything else in the chat while I'm waiting for this thing? Look at all the tables this thing has in Dataverse. Wow. It's got several connectors, teams. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think from what I can see, people are just, like, I'm kind of curious what you think as far as what's the driving force to use this over the other stuff that is available. I think that seems to be like the big thing I'm keep seeing people talk about. It's just not really knowing if it's what the value is.
I think the value is that it's easy. And I think that people are brand new to Teams and are brand new to Microsoft 365 and have been confused and overwhelmed by all that is Power Apps and trying to create solutions when you've literally never seen it before. I think this is easy. I think just it's got a big, pretty create a table button, and people can just go easily create their own apps, and they're just maybe Teams is all some people know. Like they're using Microsoft 365 for the first time. They're using Teams. They're in there all day. It's all they know. They go like, oh, I can go create an app. And then they start clicking and they're creating tables. So that's my take on why you would want to use Dataverse, because you don't know any different.
Paul actually earlier mentioned that has a lot more control and is more verbose as well. Dataverse is. So
Dataverse. Okay, so but they've also got in that comparison chart, you're comparing Dataverse and Dataverse for Teams. So I was talking about, so what I was just referring to was that easy little, the Dataverse for Teams, the little table that you can create, because I would, like with that interface, I hardly ever can imagine that I would want to go create that over a SharePoint list. But yeah, Dataverse itself is more robust. I still think SQL is even more robust. So if I was going to go pick a premium backend data source, I would probably pick SQL. But Yeah, Dataverse is very robust. If you have thousands or millions of rows of data, it's going to be a good performant data source. But in that first comment that I was making, I was really just talking about Dataverse for Teams and just
Gotcha.
easy
Yeah.
use. Yeah.
Yeah.
But for
Yeah,
people who are clicking to create a table in a Power App in Teams, I'm not sure that any of those decisions have ever even occurred to them. So that's kind of
Right.
it. If you're coming from an IT perspective, then you're going to be looking at different data. You're going to be looking at SQL and Dataverse for Teams and SharePoint, and you're going to be comparing all the, how many rows, this and that, and performance, speed, and all those factors that you're going to be looking at, and a size. So I just think that the ability to create a Power App inside of Teams and to click to create a table, you're not thinking about any of that stuff. It's just easy.
Makes sense.
I think most of the people in our Power Hour are IT people, or they're power like business users. So you all who are watching, you all are usually people who are going to be thinking about those things and making decisions. But you might be, see a bunch of these things springing up in your organization because those business users are now empowered to be able to just say, well, I don't have time to wait for IT to do this, this, and this. I just want to have a quick list of issues that we can check off, or, just something that they're going to go quickly create their own apps.
Yeah.
So this is pretty neat, though, this little insight screen. This is what I was digging into a minute ago. They've actually got it broken into little sort of groupings in here. And it's really just, inside of these groups, it's just galleries and labels and things. So it's just really from scratch. We did a whole other Power Hour about charts and reporting in Power Apps, and we did the I showed you the controls, like the chart controls, and then I showed you that from scratch concept. This is the from scratch concept. This is all just, it does have a little pie control, but all these little bars and things look like they're just like labels. Yeah, and shapes and things. Pretty neat, though, to be able to dig in and see, how all that works and what it consists of. Yeah, this is a label. Okay, so then we've got, where were we? I know this topic is a little overwhelming because there's so much to it and there's so many kind of different pieces and parts and they're everywhere. So I was trying to really not jump around in this demo and have everything kind of flow, but that's what I've been attempting to do. So now I did go install that second employee ideas app, but I'm not sure if it finished. Yeah, oh yeah, it says 2 apps right here. Okay. So that second app, let's go to Teams and go to my Ideas 2 channel, which is where it would have put this. Those ideas, and then manage ideas. Yeah, okay, so probably since I already had installed ideas in this team, it's not prompting me again for that whole tasks thing, but the inspections and I'm pretty sure it was ideas both prompted me. Now, again, the prompt just said as it was installing, like after it finished going through that installing screen, it says it needs to have a tasks tab. It said, do you have a tasks tab? So here's what I did, just so you'll know kind of the scenes that I took behind the scenes as I was installing it. I went and searched for tasks and I clicked tasks by planner. And I just named my tab tasks. And then that is when this appeared. So the app is actually using this as a connector in the app when it's assigning tasks to people during the inspections. And Yeah, so again, I don't remember which two apps it was, but that's what they expected me to do in the app. Okay, so we went over inspections, and it looks like we've got some ideas. And let's go look at a couple of the other ones since we only have 5 minutes. We've got bulletins and manage bulletins. And my bulletins app, they look like just really pretty, like sort of news, don't they? So I've got home, frequently asked questions, links, and contacts. These are just probably just screens in an app. And manage bulletins, these are going to be the people that are creating them. And it's got an Office 365 users connector, and it uses Stream. So I'll just say new bulletin and give it a category. So again, it's just got a lot of fields to fill out. So one cool thing that I wanted to show you that I found when I was digging around in the OnStart for some of these apps is that you've got some parameters that you can use that will give you information inside of Teams. So this power hour, I knew that I wasn't going to have time to deep dive into like the nitty gritty of formulas inside of these apps. It's more high level, but this is really cool. So what you have is in the OnStart for a lot of these apps, it's setting parameters. So it's got these parameters where it gets data from Teams. So when you are in Teams and you're in a channel and you open up that app, the app knows about what team and channel you're in. So this is how you can get those parameters and be able to use those. So I'm just creating a variable called GBL param team ID, and I'm using this group ID param, and I'm saying what channel am I in? I'm using this param channel ID, and then and this is my tenant too. So then I can use that data in my app. So let's go real quick back to my Power Apps in my little travel app that I created, where I started kind of playing around with this. So what I thought at first when I saw all the multiple tabs created for the different apps, like the ideas and manage ideas, was that, oh, that's cool. Well, they have it so that the app knows which tab it's on and it's switching screens or something. But no, it was just completely separate apps. But what I did here is just in this app, I am displaying the values of those parameters. And that is that the parameters are being captured in the app's OnStart. Here. So this is where they're being captured. Now, the problem is when I'm previewing it, I'm not in a team in a channel. I'm in a completely separate location. So I'm not going to have that data when I'm previewing it. But this is where it's setting that information. And then this is where I just wanted to display it, and it just displays it as a bunch of GUIDs. It's not showing a nice, pretty name. So what you'd have to do is go create a connector to Microsoft Teams and go do something like get the team using some of these. Once you create the Microsoft Teams connector, you can do get team. So I'll say get team and then pass it whatever ID that I'm getting in that parameter, so I'll know what team I'm in, and then I can say get channels, and I can pass it that ID. So then I'd be able to maybe do something like whatever different you want to do in your app according to what team and what channel you're in. I'll go see if I can preview that in my team, in my test channel, in my test travel. Go try that out. Come on, 1 minute. Come on, app. Well, I'm sure that there are some questions in chat, but not sure why it's taking so long. Alrighty. That is my travel app. that is not working. It did work right before Power Hour started, but anyway, that was more of an afterthought with the parameters because, again, they're not really using those parameters in these example apps from what I can tell, but they are using, if you go dig through all of the OnStarts in those sample apps, they're using a whole bunch with the light and dark themes. So depending on if you set your team's settings to light or dark, see this is dark now, or high contrast, your app, your Power app can know what the theme is, and you can do something in your Power app like make the Power app look different according to that theme as well. So all right, I'll go ahead and switch back here. And that was a lot of fun. Let's see if I missed any other chats. So Beth said something. Oh, thanks Beth. Thanks for coming. Hope y'all had fun poking around in all those little apps. I do see a few things that you created, so you were able to go in there and try them out. I would think that it wouldn't allow external users to go in there and actually change and edit the apps, but let me know if you're able to do that. That's another fun thing to figure out. I wasn't going to say that before I was finished demoing them, but go in there and try and hack it and see what happens. Joelle, what's your take on all this? Your synopsis?
I think pretty much what you said. I think it can be like an easy option for people needing those kind of business processes, but they don't have the knowledge of, or really the time. I mean, what power user really does have the time to go like learn Power Apps and really figure it out. But yeah, I do think it's interesting on the other side too, just, with the whole premium piece and, comparing it to other tools. So it really just depends on your organization. I think that would be my take.
Yeah. All right, cool. Thanks everybody for coming, and I will see you all next week. You all have a great afternoon. Thanks for testing out my apps with me. Bye.
Bye.